Okay, boss. I've seen a lot of interest, but so by the time they start up the question, I understand where he's going because I will control his next question, boss. What next question name adagalo name chepta word gaadu decide. I can control him completely. Okay, so any interview starts with, can you explain about your profile? Let's say I've got some 4 years or 5 years ఆ రేంజ్లో ఉన్నాను. I would say I've got 5+ years of experience in BW, okay, BI BW, and I worked with 4 different projects or 4 different client engagements. 2 of them were support, 2 of them were implementation engagements. And as part of support, my role was on doing load monitoring using process change and ticket handling, and handled some part of CR, change requests. And as part of implementation, I was involved in gathering requirements from the user, designing functional spec, designing technical spec, doing the build, performing unit testing, then transporting objects to quality. Was part of regression testing and UAT test, and was involved in fixing up defects as part of UAT test. And then I was involved in doing cutover activities where going live with by initializing all the extractors and scheduling the delta loads, and was also part of hypercare support after the implementation. And I was also involved in giving KT, knowledge transfer, to the support team, and end user training also. Training the end users how to use those reports. This is what my profile is all about. This is what my introduction, okay. So when I give it so much, he understands he is worked on in and out. So if I give this question to him, generally they would, depending on that person, he would get into support or he would get into implementation. Generally they would get into implementation first, generally, yeah. Then when it gets into implementation, he'll ask you, did you work on extraction or modeling or reporting? Then I would say, I have worked don't give him any one. What is it? You get caught of it. See, I've got equally good in extraction, modeling, and reporting. Or you might have get a question something like, how do you rate yourself in extraction? How do you rate yourself modeling? How do you rate yourself in reporting? Depend on you. Pretty much I would answer saying 9 out of 10 for reporting. I would say modeling as 9, and I would say extraction as 9. Okay. So then the next question, you would generally choose any one, extraction or modeling, but reporting is not strong. There's nothing to ask in modeling, so the question should start with extraction only. First, did you work with LO extraction? Yes, I worked with LO extraction. What data sources did you use under that? I will say 2LS 11 VHDR, 2LS 11 VATM, 2LS_0 to HDR, 2LS_0 to ITM, 0 to ACL, 2LS_, I want to take him to inventory, 2LS_03 BX, BF, EM. I worked on all the sales, purchasing, and inventory. Good. So now the question is, he might get on to any one of this. He says generally they might get on to, nowadays they're not asking about the procedure. They say, do you know about update modes? Yes, in LO we have direct delta, Q delta, and unserialized V3 update. Then ask do you know about update modes? You just name them and leave it, okay. Let him ask, okay. Now he'll ask you, what is the difference between these 3 update modes? In case of direct delta, when the delta postings are done, straight away it collects into delta Q. From there, when you run delta load, it takes from delta Q to BW. If it is Q delta, when it does the posting, it collects LUWs into extractor Q. When you schedule the V3 job, it collects LUWs from extractor Q to delta Q. When you run delta load in BW, it takes from delta Q to BW. If it is unserialized V3 update, when you does the posting, it collects into update Q SM13. Then when you schedule V3 job, it collects from update Q to delta Q. Again, delta Q stores delta and delta replacement. When you run delta, it comes into BW. This is what E flow lo chepta. Generally, he will ask you, if he is really strong, then the next question would be, when to use what. So when the number of postings are less and the frequency is less, direct delta. And when I want to maintain serialization and want to load it to the DS1 BW, I go Q delta. When I'm not worried about serialization and I want to improve the performance of V3 job, I go with what? Unserialized V3 update. And he'll ask you for inventory, what did he use? I said unserialized. And what did he use for purchasing or sales? What did he use? Q delta. This is how, I think from there it's okay. And then what is the T code for RSS 700? Delta Q. What is the importance of delta Q? You can call it as delta Q, central delta management. They call it with different names, okay. So what is important? It holds both delta and delta replacement If delta load fails, you can bring in repeat delta, which brings in present delta records plus previous delta records. Now, what is what is it, why setup tables for LO extraction? For if you look at FI, the data setup tables, why do we have setup tables for LO extraction? A question raise it on the okay. So how do you answer this? Say if you use LO extraction, you got different levels of data sources, header, item, and schedule line, right? But if I don't use setup tables, what happens? You extract header first, you extract item first, and then schedule line first. Then the document numbers are not synchronized across all the levels. But if I use setup tables where I fill all the levels of information setup tables, from there I have a single data source to extract each level. So all the documents are been synchronized. That is one. And in LO extraction, I wanted to have one data source to support each level of data source. That's where we use setup tables, implementing the concept of cluster table. So in the database, it is single table. You fill the entire application, but you in the application you see separate table for each level of data source. So we have one data source to extract each level of data. So to support for each level separate data source and synchronize installation across all the types, all the levels of the same data source for certain application, we use what? Setup tables. Are end points. Then is okay with LO extraction. Then he'll ask you, did you work with generic extraction? Yes. What did you work with? I worked with generic extraction with table. I worked with generic table view and also function model. In table, what table did you use? Z underscore X under PH underscore 0 underscore OM underscore 3H. Need note question pair Japala table. Okay. And if he says, I'm going to give a scenario tomorrow. If he says, what is the purpose of this table? Nominations didn't have any table. For contracts, SAP had a standard table. For orders, there is a standard table. For nominations, there is no table. That was our client requirement. So we had a custom table built in for nominations. So we had to extract data from the Z table, the nominations. So we had to use generic extractor and tables. Okay, good. Then did you work on function model extractor? Yes, I was used function model extractor. Then he'll ask you more than a scenario. You would say, how did you control? Do you know did you write the code or did ABAP written? Maname, I have written the code. Then he'll ask you, how do you control the packet size? By using open cursor, fetch cursor, next cursor, and then close cursor, we control the packet. We have a parameter I underscore max size. While fetching the cursor, I would say with respect to max size. Good, okay. Then he'll ask you, what is the importance of how do you control the data selections? We'll have a table called I underscore T underscore select. All the selections, what is passed in the info package will come into the table. So from the selections of L underscore T underscore select, I collect into the range variables and use these range variables in the where clause of my open cursor statement, and that's where I use this. Now, can you tell me what was the scenario when you went for function model extraction? I was supposed to extract data from some custom Z table, where Z table had two columns. One is created date and changed date. But I want to have delta mechanism enabled on both the columns. Normal delta mechanism enabled on single column. If I go to normal standard functionality on a table, I have to enable delta on a single column. But here I want to enable delta on two columns, where current date is equal to created date or changed date. So I am passing this current date in the data. I enabled created date and changed date in the data selections. In the info package, I have written a code for passing current date to it. In the where class of the open cursor, I am just reading the selections. Into that, I am saying where created date is equal to the current date or change date is equal to current date. Now default selections of info package works with and, but I wanted them to work with or, so I worked with function model extractor to enable delta on multiple columns on create date and change date. That is one. I also had a requirement to extract open deliveries, which was there's no ready-made extractors. So all deliveries are available in LIPS, delivery line item table. From there, I got three scenarios. If a delivery has a PJ document, then it is not. If delivery doesn't have a PJ document, it's open delivery. If delivery has a PJ, doesn't have billing, it's open delivery. If delivery document has a PJ, it has got a billing, but billing is not posted to COPA, it's still open delivery. They'll ask, how did you find out this in subsequent delivery? We use the table VBFA, which is document flow, which tells me for a given delivery what is a PJ document, for a given PJ document what is my billing document, and how did you get the posting status of a billing? In VBRP, which is billing item table, we can know the posting status of the billing document. We have implemented this logic and implemented delta. Functional extractor. Was it enabled delta? No, because it was a snapshot. Every day I would like to get what is my open deliveries as of today. So it is not delta, it's a full, and every day it basically picks the open deliveries and give it to me. I think that's where, I think once you are able to handle this, then it gets, if you still want to have some questions, did you work on data source enhancement? What do you say? Yes, I worked on data source analysis. Then he'll ask you, first thing is, what was the requirement and how did you do? That was the question he gets. Then he'll say, to implement this contract management, my VBAP table was enhanced with almost 20 fields. I got a table called VBAP. This standard table was enhanced with 20 fields like less than full truck load, LMC, nomination minimum volume, nomination max volume, nomination date, and there are a lot of fields which are custom fields of my business requirement was enhanced into VBAP table, which are not in the ready-made extract structure. So basically we have appended all these fields to what? Communicate structure MC VBAP. In the maintenance we have moved the fields to extract structure, and we use enhancement RSAP 0001 to fill in within that exit underscore SAP SAP underscore 001. We got it. We have a table called C underscore T underscore data. When case I underscore data source, when my data source name, we looping to the table C underscore T underscore data, performing lookup, select on the sales order number VBLN and pass POS and item number to my table VBAP, and reading all those 20 enhanced fields, filling those enhanced fields into my extract and modifying the record the psi index, tab index, or we use field symbol. We not start writing, we just assign the fields to the field symbol, that is modifies my table. So that was required, and that is what we've done. Okay, boss. So now we're extract. So if you're really strong on this part, you start jumping out of it. Okay. Then he says, what is the difference between ODS and the cube? ODS override, cube is additive, and ODS is two-dimensional, cube is multi-dimensional object. Now what is the difference between display attribute and navigation attribute? Display attribute is dependent on the characteristic, navigation attribute acts like characteristic in the reporting. Why do you want it to act as a characteristic first? Why do you want to make it as characteristic in the cube? If you make characteristic in the cube, it becomes fact. I want a present truth, but act like characteristic. So your navigation attribute is stored in which table? If it is normal, non-time dependent, X table. If it is time dependent, it stores in Y. How many tables we have in master data? 10. P table, text table, X table, Y table, S table, H, I, K, and then X and Y, Q table. Good. That's your tables in master database. Then how many tables do we have in DSO, active, new, and change log? How does overriding function work in standard DSO? When you load it into DSO, it gets into new table, and when you activate, it takes from new table to active table. While writing to, when it overrides an entry, it formats entries before and after change log. If it adds as a new image in the change log. Now when you load delta load from this standard DSO next to from which table does it take? Change log. Init or full takes from active table. Now from right out of DSO, can I do delta? From right out of DSO, when I load into next to delta, does it support delta? Yes. Even though it doesn't have change log, it does have request number in the active table, does support delta based on the request number. From direct upload DSO, can I load data mod with delta? No, it doesn't have change log, doesn't have request, only full upload from direct upload DSO. Did you work with direct upload DSO? Question. Yes, I worked with APD. What was the requirement? I had an inventory cube to give me stocks. I had a demands cube which is giving me demands. So I used Bex query to get the stock, and I used the cube directly as source. I've joined them. Then I've written a web code to calculate demand aggregation ratio. I put that in direct of DSO. From direct of DSO, I'm again loading it to cube. On the top of this queue, I've got reporting done, which is giving me stock, demand, and demand aggregation ratio. So at direct of DSO నుంచి APD కి APD నుంచి అట్లా Bex query కి వెళ్ళిపో. Now he comes back to report. What is the difference between multiplot and infoset? Multiplot is union, infoset is join, and okay. And did you work with infosets? What is that? We didn't have, we had requirement, but we never used it because of the performance. Then how did you implement that join it? By leveraging the content into master data, and master data getting joined to transaction. We leveraged it that. Okay, that was fine. Fine, tells you that. You cannot join, so you store the same data into master data, then obviously the data gets joined, inner joined. Good. Then what Atlanta? But when you use master data, when you store data into master data joining to transaction data, does it support temporal joins, left or join? No, by default it is inner join. If you want to go temporal joins or all this, it has to be worked out with infoset. That is the only option left out. Okay. Okay. Then can you do reporting on? Can you create multiple in a single queue? Yes. You say in my project, it was all in the virtualization layer was built with multi-provider. Then on top of multiple, we have the Bex queries built. Okay, good. Let's say I got multiple with 5 cubes, and I'm doing reporting on those multi-provider, but I want my query to fetch only from one provider. Then you restrict on info provider. But I had a requirement like this. The next question could be like this. I've got for each year I've got one cube, and all the cubes have been joined with multi-provider, and then I'm doing reporting. I've got variable on cal year. Depending on the year what he selects, I need to choose my provider. Then how will you do this? Yeah. Then I'll create a variable on my info provider, where with a customer ID with I step 2 I will be filling in based on the year he enters in. I will be formulating my cube name and filling into the I step 2. Good. Okay. So, okay. Then he comes in. I wanted to deliver a report on turnaround time. కొద్ది ఫంక్షన్గా అడుగుతానంట. I would like to have a report which gives me turnaround time from my purchase order to goods receipt అంటారు. అంటే కొద్దిగా లాజికల్గా ఆలోచిస్తే అయిపోయి turnaround time is you raised the purchase order and you got a goods receipt. Now how many days it's been taken for this due? So how did you do? ఇలా అట్లా అడిగిన నా క్వశ్చన్. If he is just looking at approach in those cases, he say for purchase order I'll have purchase order date. In goods receipt date I'll have actual goods receipt date. So actual goods receipt date minus purchase order date will give me number of days, that will be my turnaround time. అంటే నేను ఆర్డర్ రేజ్ చేస్తే నాకు స్టాక్ రావడానికి ఎన్ని రోజులు పడుతుంది అనేది turnaround time. అట్లా కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్లు వేస్తాను. సో how did you calculate number of days with 2 dates like this? అంటే formula with replacement path, replacing the dates into this date. Okay, use formula variable replacement, replacing with the actual goods issue date, and formula with replacement path, replacing the pivot date. When I do all this minus this two, that gives me number of days. That is my turnaround time. Okay, boss. Then compulsory question: what is the difference between conditions and filter? Filter is on characteristic values. Condition is on key figures. Okay, good. How many types of variables do we have? Characteristic variable, text variable, formula variable, hierarchy. How many processing types do you have? Like SAP exit, customer exit, manual entry, user entry, authorizations and customer exit. Authorizations and customer exit. Okay. Did you work with what combination did you work with? Every combination. Which one do you want? Okay. When did you work with text with replacement path? Did you work with? So in a trending report where you want current month, previous month, next month, we wanted to have text variable replaced with calendar year month, we have used it. Okay, good. So while with text with replacement path, we have something called variable offset. What does it offset do?
It will give the exact number.
Yeah, you can bring for the text variable offsetting is just what part of the string do you want. But we have something called variable offsetting. Characteristic value, if you say variable offset of +1, -1, instead of user entering the same year, I can calculate the next year or +1 or -1 I can do. When do you go for characteristic with replacement path?
Calculating this.
Characteristic with replacement path is when you are jumping from let's say you are running a report and you would like to have a variable which takes in the input as an output of another query. So it has run the query 1, take the output of the results of the query as an input to my variable, and then run it. Then we go with what? Characteristic with replacement path. Okay, good. I have negative values in my report, and I would like to show my negative values within parentheses. Where do we control this? In the query properties, display values as negative values as what? Bracket of minus value minus bracket of x. Negative values will be shown in brackets. Good. Okay. What is the difference between RKF and new selection? Restricted query is global, new selection is local, and new selection can be built on the structure, and it can build new selection on two structures in a report. But in one structure, you can use key query in the new selection, in another structure, you cannot use keywords in the new selections. Okay, good. And what is cell definition? Whenever my cell definition, if I need to use cell definition, you must enable only when two structures are used in the query. And what is maximum number of structures you can use in a query? Two. Good. You can create a number of structures, but you can leverage only two structures in a query. Good. Yeah, except aggregation. He'll ask did you get with say I've got a bill amount, but I would like to get the number of orders. What do you do? Except aggregation and with what say count with reference to order number. I can do that. I have a question. చూడు నువ్వే క్వశ్చన్ దిస్ ఇస్ వాట్ అంటే ఇట్లే ఉంటా అంటే నెక్స్ట్ టైం ఆడ్ ఆస్క్ యూ ఇంకా నాకు వచ్చేమంటే అన్న నాకు ఇంప్రూవ్ క్లియర్ కాలే వాడు రియల్ టైం క్వశ్చన్ అంటే ఏంది రియల్ టైం క్వశ్చన్ వాడు అడుగుతాడు వాట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ రిపోర్ట్ డిడ్ యూ డూ కెన్ యూ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ విత్ సమ్ రిపోర్ట్ వాట్ యూ డన్ అంటే యూ సే ఆన్ టైమ్ డెలివరీ రిపోర్ట్ పొజిషన్ ఆఫ్ ఆన్ టైమ్ డెలివరీ రిపోర్ట్ మీన్స్ ఐఎమ్ జస్ట్ గివింగ్ which are the sales orders which are delivered on time, which are not delivered on time. How am I saying which is delivered on time? I'll have planned goods issue date, actual goods issue date. If my planned goods issue date is less than if planned issue is greater than or equal to my actual, then I'll say it is delivered on time. Otherwise, no. Okay, adog report. Then we have delivered a report on position of sale, complete position of sales. What is my open order value? What is my closed order value? What is my open delivery value? What is my net sales? Okay. అట్లా అన్ని ఎంటైర్ సేల్స్ పిక్చర్ యూ గెట్స్ ఇన్ వన్ రిపోర్ట్ లైక్ దిస్ ఆర్ యూ డెలివర్డ్ ఎ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ రిపోర్ట్ యూ డెలివర్డ్ గివింగ్ ప్రాఫిట్ అండ్ లాస్ రిపోర్ట్స్ Lots, like we have given them contract complaints reports, how many number of contracts are there, how many are complaints, how many non-complaints. We've given some report on nomination volume complaints, nomination volume complaints, date level complaints. Name things you want. Don't stop at that point of time. Okay, how many reports did you design? 45. There's no, for those kind of questions, there's no fixed answer. Okay, it's all about your confidence level. Something 4500. Okay, let's say I can say in your 5 years experience, how many queries did you design? One query would suppose. Yes or no, boss? But one query to what list so కొన్ని 10 ఆ రేంజ్లో you want to project as a really expert అంటే then you get it. And if you're really confident and you want to take him to the extreme level and అంటే ఇంటర్వ్యూ ఖచ్చితంగా కొట్టాలి నేను అనుకున్నాను అనుకో. Next, they'll ask you, did you work with ABAP? Compulsory. Do you know ABAP? Yes, I can write ABAP. Now, did you work with transformations? Yes. Did you work with start routine, end routine, export routine? Yes. Now, what was required? What was the start routine? What was end required and what is end routine? What is the difference between start routine and end routine? What is the difference between export routine and start routine and end routine? That's matter compulsory. Okay, you have to be. Difference is what? Start routine will have source package, that will have result package. So structure of source package is similar to source object. Structure of result package is target object. And the start routine gets executed before the transformation, end routine executes after transformation. And both executes packet by packet. చిన్న అబ్బాయి అడుగుతాడు సెలెక్ట్ ఇట్ మైట్ ఆస్ సెలెక్ట్ సింగిల్. ఇంకా వాడు అడుగుతాడు ఇంకే నువ్వు అడగను నా క్వశ్చన్స్. నవ్ యూ ఆస్క్ మీ వాట్ క్వశ్చన్ యూ వాంట్ ఆస్క్. And did you work with, next, this is implementation. Then it comes to like, did you work on support? Yes, antam. You worked in process monitoring. Okay, what errors did you get? Another question was in the next. I'll ask you what ticketing tool, what tickets did you get? Then query marchedi, extra fields add. You get some CRs like that as support. You what question అడిగి ఏం కావాలో అడుగు. నువ్వు భయంకరంగా కష్టపెట్టాలి. You thought you would like to do a tough interview. ఏం అడుగుతా అడుగు. చాలా సింపుల్ అన్న అనుకో. నువ్వు ఏదన్నా అడుగు. వాట్ ఇస్ డెల్టా అవుట్ అండ్ ఈజ్ ఆస్కింగ్ ఫర్ గివెన్ డేట్. లెట్స్ యూ have data source, you like to load into BW. How will you decide whether you have to load into cube directly or what is to cube? Based on the delta process. How will you find out the delta process? By using the row source table, I can find out the delta process. For detailed explanation of the delta process, I can use a table row delta. Like you'll have process like ABR, after, before, reverse, then I can load it to cube directly or what is to cube. If it is like EIE, where it gives only the after change for the changed values, then I'll load it to ODS and overwrite my data. From there, I load it to cube. Can I set my ODS as additive? Yes or no? Yes. Next question. Inka. Types of cube. Standard cube, real time cube. Did you work with planning? I was supporting the planning cube. Yes, I know what is real time cube. బ్యాబీకి అంత జోలికి పోడు. డిడ్ వర్క్ ఇంకా నువ్వే కాంప్లెక్స్ చేయాలనుకుంటే ఎస్, ఐ ఆల్సో వర్క్ విత్ ఇన్ఫో క్యూబ్ విత్ ఫంక్షన్ మోడల్ ఆల్సో. ఇంకా నువ్వు ఇంకా అంటేనే ఓకే అంటాడు, దాని జోలికి పోడు. ఈ మైట్ కమ్ అండ్ ఆస్క్ యూ వాట్ వాజ్ ద సినారియో అంటాడు. అప్పుడు ఐ టోల్డ్ యూ దర్ ఇస్ వన్ ఇన్వెంటరీ డిఫరెంట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ వాల్యూమ్స్ అండ్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ఈచ్ రిపోర్ట్ ఐడి ఐ వాంటెడ్ టు హ్యావ్ డిఫరెంట్ క్యాలిక్యులేషన్ ఆన్ ద వాల్యూమ్స్. సో ఐ హ్యాడ్ టు డూ 32 cubes. Instead of doing that, we create one cube and we have a variable on report ID. Based on the report ID, I am calculating and giving out the results. అర్థమైంది కదా లాజిక్? ఇంకా how will you put, only if the info package supports background processing, you can put that into processing. అంతే. ఇంకా and I want you to search for Google for the T code ST13. చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ T code. మా దీంట్లో ఉందో చూస్తా ఒకసారి. వాళ్ళ సిస్టంలో లేదని చెప్పాడు, బట్ సరే. దానికి సపరేట్ ఒక ప్యాచ్ చేసుకోవాలి. టీ కోడ్ కూడా ST13 where you can choose now. ಅದು 2-3 screenshots తీసుకురా. Okay. The T code ST13, which can help you to see status of every project chain running in the system. Because if you go to RSPs and see log, you can see only one chain. On maximum, you can open 6 sessions, you can see 6. But I would like to see complete status of all the chains. ST13, there is a dedicated monitoring tools which is given by SAP. If you attach some patch, you get that. And there you can see log of every chain, every log you can see. It's very friendly. They've just got 2-3 screenshots. ఇంకా అడుగు ఇంకా
They don't ask questions on business objects if you work with business objects.
if you project they'll ask, otherwise but no, there's no one is interested in business objects because it's just a drag and drop tools and can be handled, but always they expect you to be an expert of one, never two things. Above BW combination, it's evergreen combination. Still question ले मेरे question ले रहे हैं.
Info package is supporting only full mode. How will you
Basically, I can restrict my data using selections. If there's no possible selection, I will do full load it to ODS, make the data override, and take only changes from DSO to queue. Maximum, I'll try to restrict to selections. If not possible, I'll do a full load to DSO, let it override, and the changes will go to queue from ODS to queue. So ODS can be leveraged for handling delta, convert the fulls to the delta mechanism from there. ఇంకా నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్. ఇంకా క్వశ్చన్ వేయాలంటే కూడా టాలెంట్ ఉండాలన్నా. ఇంకా అంటే సబ్జెక్ట్ వచ్చినోడే వేస్తాడు క్వశ్చన్. So do you know how to transport objects? Yes, collect the objects into request, release and import. Any specific sequence you'll have to follow? Yeah, basically info objects has to go first, then the targets, then the data sources, then transformations, info packets, DTPs, and then multi-prod, then queries. It's like as different as if you're creating those objects. Can I use, how many number of cubes can I use in info set? N number, 2. Maximum only 2 cubes in info set, not more than that. వేరే ఆబ్జెక్ట్లు ఎన్న పడుతుంది, క్యూబ్స్ అయితే 2 మ్యాక్స్. నేను మామూలుగా ముందు ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేస్తా అంటే ఐ యూస్ టు ఆస్క్ క్వశ్చన్ లైక్ హౌ మెనీ వాట్ ఈస్ ఇంపార్టెన్స్ ఆఫ్ కండిషన్ అంటే ఫస్ట్. నాకు ఎవడన్నా రిపోర్టింగ్ స్ట్రాంగ్ అంటే నేను తట్టుకోలేనట్టు, నాకు ఈగో తగ్గుతున్నట్టు. ఓకే, సో వెన్ సమ్మన్ సేస్ రియలీ స్ట్రాంగ్ ఇన్ రిపోర్టింగ్ ఐ యూస్ టు ఆస్క్ హిమ్ వాట్ ఈస్ ఇంపార్టెన్స్ ఆఫ్ కండిషన్. You restrict based on the keyword value. So can we have multiple conditions under?
Yes.
So we can have more. So we do the play with and or R. But R to kavalante? Yeah, different conditions they play with and. Within single condition if you put multiple restriction R. అది అప్పుడు లేదా ఓపెన్ ఆ పాయింటే లేదన్నట్టు బయటికి. ఏమడుగుతాం బాస్? Did you work with flat file? ఇంకోటి did you work with transformations అన్నప్పుడు was there any scenario where you use transformation? I want you to stress on this. Flat file data source, loading into cube. I wanted to use start routing for validation checks. అర్థమైందని validation అంటే now you get records in source package కదా, దీంట్లో ఉన్న కస్టమర్స్ అన్ని మార్కెట్ loading customers, all these customers are already there in the market or not. Okay, metal are already there in the market or not. Any invalid characters or invalid dates in the special characters ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయా? I want you to project thing. I will use start routing for flat file loading. For all the data validations, I have used start routing. Okay, Ramesh, fine. Okay, what is it?
Did you work with COPA extraction?
Yes and no. No one is supposed to yes. Then I'll ask you what was your operating concern name. Okay, RH01. It should be 4 character, but anything it is. Okay. How do you generate? KB0 is my code data source. Give specific data source name, say create, and then generate catalog. Select your fields, what you want, and go. He'll ask you what are the tables C1, C2, C3, and C4. And he'll ask you what is the difference between casting based and accounting based. Casting based is for each value it will be different key figure, and if it is accounting based, you'll have single keyword differentiated based on the GL account. Then he'll ask you what is the delta mechanism of COPA timestamp. Where can you see the timestamp? KB5. Now, if delta load fails in COPA, how will you do? Set the request to red, delete the bad request in the PS, and rerun the delta again. So it will not repeat delta. In older versions, when the delta load fails, we used to reset the timestamp manually in KB2. sorry, KB5. KB2 is for seeing the timestamp, and KB5 is for altering the timestamp. But now we don't use a table. And that is what the last code.
Function model effect ఇప్పుడు different tables ఉన్నప్పుడు open cursor ఎలా పనిచేస్తుంది? Table.
First of all, you have to bring them into one internal table. From there, you start reading actually, or they build a database view and do a select on database view. ఇంకా యాక్చువల్లీ ఎట్లా చేస్తారంటే ఫస్ట్ డేటాబేస్ ఒక ఇంటర్నల్ టేబుల్ దే విల్ పుట్ కర్సర్ ఆన్ ద మెయిన్ టేబుల్ అండ్ ఫిల్ ద ఇంటర్నల్ టేబుల్ అండ్ సమ్ కాలమ్స్ విల్ బి బ్లాంక్ అండ్ దెన్ యూ లూప్ త్రూ అండ్ డూ సమ్ సెలెక్ట్స్ అండ్ ఫిల్ దోస్ రికార్డ్స్. అర్థమైందా? ఈ సేయింగ్ వెన్ ఐ హావ్ గాట్ మల్టిపుల్ టేబుల్స్ హౌ విల్ యూ యూజ్ అ కర్సర్ బికాస్ కర్సర్ ప్లేస్ ఆన్ సింగిల్ టేబుల్, రైట్? సో ఐ గాట్ సేల్స్ ఆర్డర్ టేబుల్. I'll place a cursor on the sales order, read the sales orders into table, internal table. Once it comes in, I'm not going to close it out. Once the table entries come into the table, I'm going to loop through the table, fill the extra columns by doing lookup to different tables. Still, what else? Inka. Did you work on query? Question. Did you work on performance tuning? Yes. Did you work with query performance? Yes. What did you work on? Convert compression, aggregates, partitioning, line item dimensions, and overlap cache and చెప్తే వాడు ఏదో ఒకటి జనరల్లీ ఓవర్లాప్ cache అనే రాడు ఏదో, because that doesn't have any concept. Okay? So mainly concept is with compression, aggregates కానీ partitioning కానీ, and what else? Index small common. They mainly focus on this part. And now aggregates also fit the value behind there. So mainly focus will be on compression. Did you work with compression? Yes. What is compression is first question. And then depending on if you're 5 years, 6 years, my question would be, I have a cube. I have loaded 5 years of data into the cube. Now I've got some, and my cube is compressed, and the data is also rolled up to my aggregates. Now I see some wrong data in my cube. How will you correct this out? Are you understanding my speed? నేను కావాలని స్పీడ్ ఈ స్పీడ్ అందుకుంటే ఇంకా అయిపోయింది అంతే. అట్లీస్ట్ యూర్ ఏబుల్ టు గెట్ దట్ స్పీడ్ ఇంకా అయిపోయింది, ఈజీ కొడతారు జాబ్. యూ డోంట్ ఫైండ్ పీపుల్ టాకింగ్ సో దే డోంట్ టాక్ సో స్పీడ్, దే డోంట్ టాక్ సో ఫాస్ట్. నేను మీకు చెప్పి బోర్ కొట్టి అట్లుంది నా స్పీడ్ అని. డిడ్ అండర్స్టాండ్ మై క్వశ్చన్? సో వాట్ ఈస్ ద సొల్యూషన్? పట్ట వాడు క్వశ్చన్ వేసరికి నీ మైండ్ రన్ అయిపోవాలన్నా. వాట్ ఇస్ ఇట్? Deactivate aggregates, do a selective deletion, and reload the correct data, then activate aggregates back. When I deactivate aggregates, what happens? Data in the aggregate is deleted. When I do select deletion, deleting the wrong data, then reload the correct data, then activate aggregates. Because if I don't deactivate, if I do a selective deletion in the cube, it only deletes in cube, but the reporting is still fetching from aggregate, you still get wrong data. What is hierarchy attribute change? When you load your master data, it changes the value for your attributes, and if there is an navigation attribute being used in all aggregates, and I will let reflect these changes to all the aggregates where it is being used. So I use attribute changer. When you load master data, you tend to change the values of the attributes, and this navigation attribute value might be used in say some 20 aggregates. Wherever this navigation attribute value is being used, I would like to reflect those changes. So I use attribute changer. Question? Okay, we'll do one thing. Okay, so how many of you prepared with those extractors first? It's పెట్టేసి, don't waste your time, and now start focusing on all this. Now are you able to answer these questions? Question answer కాదు, but was it when I'm answering, you get the concept, right? Mug-up కాదు, concept and vocabulary is important, how you project it. Okay boss, fine. అన్న అడిగినా ఎన్నో వచ్చినా మ్యాక్సిమం ఎంత ఎవడు అడిగి నువ్వు చెప్పున్నా నీకు తడతానా అసలు క్వశ్చన్లో ఒకటన్నా ఏందున్నా మోడల్ క్యూబ్, ఓడిఎస్, ఇన్ఫో ఆబ్జెక్ట్, మల్టీ ప్రొవైడర్, ఇన్ఫోసెట్, ట్రాన్స్ఫర్మేషన్, డిటిపి, ఇన్ఫో ప్యాకేజ్. ఇంకా దీని నుంచి ఇంకేముంది? అంతేనా? దెన్ బెక్స్ రిపోర్ట్, వేరియబుల్స్, డ్రాగ్ అండ్ డ్రాప్, రోస్, కాలమ్స్, ఫ్రీ క్యాటగరీ, ఫిల్టర్, ఎక్స్ట్రాక్షన్, ఎల్ఓ ఎక్స్ట్రాక్షన్, జనరిక్. ఇంకేది? వాట్ ఎల్స్ దే కెన్ ఆస్క్ యూ, టెల్ మీ. ఎవడన్నా ఏమడగలను, ఏం టెస్ట్ చేయాలండి చెప్పు. ఇవే yes or no boss? BW is all about LO extraction, generic, and data source enhancement. And the variables, we have got variables and variable customer exits, and conditions, filters and restrictions. And modeling cube, ODS, multi-board, reinforced set, types of cubes, types of ODS, and the navigation types of attributes, transformations, DTP, info package. What else? Should I ask about info area? Aduta. And one point, what is the maximum length of an info object? Good. It was 60, now from 7.4 it is 250. And what is the maximum length of a text can I hold? Text field? Medium 20, short 20, medium 40, 60, and there's one more thing, long text now with 1334 length. Okay. And if you want to hold very big text, you maintain something called documents concept. We have something called BDS, document services. Okay. You can maintain that as documents. Inka. Say I have a project chain which has been where this variant of the start is set as start using meta chain or API because I am using it in another chain. But now I have required to run only this particular chain. How will I trigger it? You got my question? I have a process chain where the variant of the start process set as start using meta chain or API, and I would like to trigger this chain now. Do you have a function model doing SC37? You go to SC37, there's a function RSPC chain underscore start, RS underscore API underscore chain start. When you click that, it will ask you chain name. When you give this and run, it triggers it. When you say meta chain or API, it can be triggered from another chain or it can be triggered through a program. That's what it is. Yeah. Yes, sir. No one question will. Then he'll have all the same discussion about BX, BF, marker value, compressing at that point. Okay.
Sir, resume data analysis and data modeling.
Data analysis ante basically we get the requirements from the business, and based on that we analyze where is this data, how, because I need some report. But for this report, how many tables should I refer, what all tables should I refer, what data source should I leverage, is all analysis. Then I'll format a data flow, load, give the report, go, finish the part. Now, support load analysis, for example, he says, I'm running this report. When I'm not getting the value for this column. This column null vastandi antaru. Enduku vastundani only you start finding root cause of it. Why is this problem coming up? Yeah.
Snapshot scenario ante ee roju kalli.
What is snapshot ante? As of today, what is mine? Ante so, for example, you're loading full loads now, 100. You're doing normal delta to ODS and from there to cube. Now I'd like to give snapshot scenario. What do you do? If I just do delta, you'll get only normal data. Now, as of date, I want. So then what they'll do? They'll create one more cube on the top, and from that cube, they'll load another cube with full load by filling the current date to the cal day. Now I get 100 records in a queue. From there, I load 100 records to another queue with say where cal day is equal current date. So all these 100 records will load as what? July 15. Now tomorrow you get some more records to the queue. So it will become 100 plus 20. Again, I'll do full load 110 goes to the next level queue with cal day as what? July 16. In the reporting, when I say July 17th, it shows 100 records. If I say July 17th, it shows 110. That is like to build snapshot, they keep loading to cube to cube. Okay, we'll stop it here, and tomorrow at least we'll see the broadcasting. And you try, can you bring one question from everyone? Or three questions you prepare? Try to make it very complex question. Three questions from each of you. We'll see. Who is giving me the complex question, then we'll see. Complex adagalla, so three questions you bring in. Even I might know, if I don't know, Google we'll find out. I want complex question you can bring in. Okay? Fine. More questions, complex. Okay?